All right, welcome to the deep dive. Today we are diving into the world of the MikroTik ROSE storage device. And we're really excited to have you here to break down your experience with it. You've got some incredible notes here, and we're hoping to give everyone a really clear picture of what it's like to set one up and what they can expect.
Yeah, I'm happy to share my journey with the MikroTik ROSE. It's been a learning experience for sure, but I think it's something that's going to resonate with a lot of people out there, whether they're thinking about setting up their own storage solution or just curious about the technology. We've got a lot to unpack.
Totally. And your notes are really detailed. You walked us through everything. Unboxing, selecting those drives, wrestling with the RAID config, and then even running some serious performance
Oh,
tests.
yeah. I wanted to make sure I documented everything because, when I was researching the ROSE, there weren't a ton of in-depth resources out there. So I figured, hey, might as well contribute to the community.
Absolutely. That's the spirit of the deep dive.
Yeah.
So let's start at the very beginning. A very good place to start. You open the box, and what's the first thing that hits you?
The color, right?
Oh yeah, the green. It's definitely not what I expected. I mean, most server hardware is all black and gray, very serious and all, but this thing is bright green. It kind of threw me off at
I
first.
know, right? It's like they decided to break all the server fashion rules. But you actually pointed out that this unexpected color choice has a surprisingly practical purpose.
Yeah, it's all about visibility. In a busy server rack, with all those cables and blinking lights, it can be hard to quickly identify a specific device. But with that bright green, the rose just jumps out at you, makes it super easy to find.
It's like a beacon in a sea of gray. So, practicality over convention. I like it. Now, moving past the color, what were your initial impressions of the unit itself? Size, build quality, that kind of thing.
Well, at first glance, it seemed pretty compact, not too wide, not too tall. But then you realize that it's a full-depth rack unit, so it extends all the way back in the rack. So, not exactly a space saver, but it makes sense considering it's designed to hold multiple drives.
Right. And that brings up another point. I noticed in your notes that you needed to install those rear support brackets.
Oh, yeah, those are essential.
Without them, the unit felt a bit wobbly, and I didn't want it putting any unnecessary stress on the rack rails.
Makes sense. It's better to be safe than sorry, especially with all that data you'll be storing. But on a more positive note, you mentioned that the build quality was quite impressive.
Yeah, it felt very solid, well constructed, no flimsy parts or anything like that. And the drive trays, or caddies as they call them, are really well designed.
Those were one of your favorite features, right?
Oh, yeah, the screwless design is brilliant.
You just slide the drives in, click them into place, and you're good to go. No messing around with tiny screws or screwdrivers.
It's a small detail, but it makes a huge difference in terms of ease of installation and maintenance. So, yeah, big thumbs up for that.
All right, so we've got this solid green box with convenient drive caddies. Now comes the fun part, selecting the right storage drives. And this is where your journey took an unexpected turn.
Oh, yeah, this was where things got a little tricky. My initial plan was to go with enterprise grade U.2 drives, the kind designed for servers with high reliability and all that.
Makes sense. You want the best of the best for your storage.
Exactly. But there was one crucial feature I was looking for: power loss protection, or PLP.
Right, PLP. That's essential for protecting data against sudden power outages, right?
Exactly. If the power goes out unexpectedly, PLP ensures that any data that was being written to the drive gets saved properly. Without it, you risk data corruption, and that's a big no-no for any serious storage setup.
Absolutely. So the hunt for enterprise-grade U.2 drives with PLP begins.
And this is where I hit a snag. Most of the enterprise drives with PLP were 15 millimeters thick.
Oh, that's a problem. The MikroTik ROSE requires those thinner 7 millimeter drives.
Exactly. And finding a 7 millimeter U.2 drive with PLP, let me tell you, it was like searching for a unicorn.
So what did you do?
Well, I had to adjust my strategy. Since this was primarily for a backup system and a test platform, I decided to go with consumer-grade NVMe SSDs.
A bit of a compromise, but probably a smart one considering the cost and availability.
Exactly. I ended up going with 6 Samsung 990 EVO 1 terabyte SSDs. They're widely available, perform really well, and the price was much more reasonable.
So you sacrificed a bit of that enterprise-grade robustness for affordability and practicality.
Yeah, it was a trade-off I was willing to make for this particular use case. And to make them compatible with the Rosie's U.2 slots, I got 6 M.2 2280 to U.2 converters, basically these adapters that let you use M.2 drives in a U.2 bay.
A clever workaround. So you got your drives, you got your adapters, time for the physical installation.
And this part was actually a breeze thanks to those screwless drive caddies. I just popped the Samsung drives into the adapters, slid them into the caddies, and clicked them into the Rosie chassis. Done.
It's like a Lego set for grown-ups.
Pretty much. I even made a quick video of the process just to document it, so if anyone's curious about how it's done, they can check that out.
Awesome. We'll make sure to include a link to that in the show notes. Now, with the drives physically installed, the next step is getting into the Rosie's configuration interface.
Right. So the Rose has both copper Ethernet ports and those SFP interfaces, which give you a lot of flexibility in terms of connectivity. You can use either, depending on your network setup.
And those SFP ports are great if you need to use fiber optic cables for faster speeds.
Exactly. But here's a key takeaway from my experience. When it comes to the initial configuration, especially for setting up the RAID array, stick to the terminal interface, either SSH or Telnet.
You ran into some issues with the Winbox graphical interface.
Yeah, Winbox is generally pretty user-friendly, but I encountered some bugs and inconsistencies when trying to configure the RAID through it. It just wasn't as reliable as using the command line.
So a bit of a throwback to the old school way of doing things, but sometimes that's just more stable,
Absolutely.
especially when you're dealing with something as critical as a RAID array. All right, so let's talk RAID. With 6 drives at your disposal, you had a few different RAID levels to choose from.
Yeah, the ROSE supports RAID 0, RAID 1, RAID 5, RAID 6, and even RAID 10. I ruled out RAID 0 pretty quickly.
RAID 0, that's the one that gives you maximum speed and capacity, but 0 redundancy, right?
Right. If one drive fails, you lose everything.
Not ideal for a backup system.
Definitely not. Then there's RAID 1, which is all about redundancy. It mirrors your data across multiple drives, but the downside is that you only get half the total storage capacity.
So with 6 1-terabyte drives, you'd only have 1 terabyte of usable space.
Exactly. And that felt like a waste, especially considering the cost of those drives.
Makes sense. So RAID 0 and RAID 1 are off the table. What about RAID 5?
RAID 5 is a good compromise between speed, capacity, and redundancy, but I had some concerns about the write hole issue.
The right hole. That sounds ominous.
It's a potential problem with RAID 5 where if you have a power failure during a write operation, the parity information can become inconsistent, and you could end up with data corruption. And since I was using consumer-grade drives, which might have slightly higher error rates than enterprise drives, I didn't want to take that risk.
Fair enough. You're dealing with backups here. Data integrity is paramount. So RAID 5 is out. That leaves RAID 6 and RAID 10. What were your thoughts on those?
RAID 10 combines the mirroring of RAID 1 with the striping of RAID 0. It's very fast and offers good redundancy, but you still lose half the capacity. And I was hoping to get a bit more usable storage out of my 6 drives, so that led me to RAID 6.
RAID 6, the double parity champion.
Exactly. With RAID 6, you can lose up to 2 drives simultaneously without losing any data,
That's a lot of peace of mind.
especially with consumer-grade drives. And with 6 drives in a RAID 6 config, I'd end up with 4 terabytes of usable storage. It seemed like the sweet spot for my needs.
The Goldilocks RAID level. So RAID 6 it is. Now, how did you go about actually creating the array on the MikroTik ROSE?
This is where we go back to the terminal interface. You first create the array using a command, give it a name, and specify the RAID level. Then you need to assign the physical drives to the array.
And this is where you encountered some of those naming inconsistencies you mentioned in your notes, right?
Yeah, this was a bit of a head-scratcher. The drives are named NVMe1 through NVMe6, but when you assign them to the RAID array, you need to specify their role, and those roles start at 0.
So NVM1 gets role 0, NVMe2 gets role 1, and so on.
Right. But it's a bit confusing because MikroTik sometimes uses the term slot to refer to the physical drive bays, which is different from how other vendors do it.
Right, it's not the most intuitive naming scheme. It's like they're speaking a slightly different dialect of tech jargon.
Exactly. It just adds an extra layer of complexity and increases the chances of making a mistake during configuration.
A little standardization would go a long way there. Hopefully MikroTik will address that in a future update.
Fingers crossed.
Okay, so you've created the RAID array, you've assigned the drives, and now it's time to format it.
And guess what? More Winbox shenanigans.
You're kidding. It couldn't handle formatting the array either.
Nope. It just wasn't reliable. Back to the terminal we go.
The command line is your trusty sidekick in this MikroTik adventure.
It is. but the formatting itself was very straightforward and surprisingly
Yeah, and
fast.
what file system did you choose for the array?
I went with ext4. It's a solid, well-supported file system that's widely used in the Linux world. And since I planned on using the ROSE with Proxmox, which is based on Debian Linux, ext4 was the natural choice.
A perfect match for your virtualization environment. All right, so the storage is built, formatted, and ready to go. Now it's time to integrate it into your network.
Right. So you need to give the ROSE a static IP address so it has a consistent presence on the network. And this is where the ROSE's connectivity options really shine. You've got those copper 10 gigabit Ethernet ports and the SFP plus ports, which can handle even faster speeds like 25 or 100
That's
gigabits.
serious bandwidth. And you even mentioned the possibility of link bonding.
Yeah, if you've got multiple network interfaces available, you can bond them together to create a single faster connection. So if you have two 10 gigabit ports, you can potentially get 20 gigabits per second of throughput.
That's getting into some serious data moving territory.
It is, but of course that depends on your network infrastructure and your specific needs.
Of course. All right, so the ROSI is online, the storage is configured, and you're ready to mount it in Proxmox.
And this is where I hit another snag. Initially, I tried to mount the storage using NFS, or Network File System.
NFS, that's a pretty standard way of sharing files over a network, especially in Linux environments.
Yeah, but it turns out MikroTik's implementation of NFS is a bit different.
Different how?
Well, their NFS only supports the TCP protocol. Most other NFS servers use a combination of TCP and UDP, and that incompatibility prevented me from mounting the share in Proxmox.
So a bit of a protocol mismatch.
Exactly, and to make matters worse, RouterOS doesn't allow you to set traditional Linux-style permissions on NFS shares.
So you couldn't control who had access to what.
Right, it was a bit of a security concern.
So NFS was a no-go. What about SMB? That's another common file sharing protocol.
Yeah, I decided to give SMB a try, even though it's often perceived as being a bit slower than NFS.
Then,
It worked flawlessly. I was able to mount the ROSE storage in Proxmox using SMB without any issues, and the performance was surprisingly good.
that's great to hear. Sometimes those assumptions about performance just don't hold up in real-world testing.
Totally.
Okay, so with SMB working smoothly, it was time to put the ROSE to the test and see what it could really do.
Time to unleash the benchmarks.
Exactly. So what kind of performance tests did you run?
I focused on three main areas: backup performance, file copy performance, and then some synthetic testing using a tool called CrystalDiskMark.
Let's start with backups. How did the ROSE compare to your previous backup system?
The difference was night and day. Backups were about 3 times faster with the
3
ROSE.
times faster. That's huge.
Yeah, the network interface was consistently hitting around 9 gigabits per second,
So you were really pushing the limits of that 10 gigabit connection.
pretty much. And the CPU utilization on the ROSE was only around 20 to 30%. It was barely breaking a sweat.
Impressive. It sounds like it significantly reduced your backup window.
Oh yeah, big time.
Okay, what about file copy performance? How did it handle transferring large files?
I mounted the ROSE as an SMB share in a Windows virtual machine and just started copying large files back and forth.
Yeah.
The sustained transfer rates were consistently in the 800 to 900 megabytes per second range.
That's close to the theoretical maximum for a 10 gigabit connection.
Yeah, I was pretty amazed. And the CPU utilization on the ROSE was only 5 to 10%.
It's like it's designed for this kind of high throughput file transfer.
It really is.
Now, for the final test, CrystalDiskMark. That's a tool that runs a bunch of different storage benchmarks, right?
Exactly. It tests sequential reads and writes, random reads and writes, different block sizes, all kinds of things. And the ROSE aced it.
Give us some highlights.
For sequential writes, we were basically maxing out this 10 gigabit connection. But what really impressed me was the 4K random write performance.
4K random writes, that's a tough one for a lot of storage devices.
Yeah, it's a good indicator of how well a drive can handle lots of small, scattered writes, which is common in databases and virtual machine environments.
And the ROSE held its own.
It did. We were seeing speeds of 400 to 500 megabytes per second for 4K random writes.
That's fantastic, especially at this price point.
Yeah, that's what really stood out to me. You're getting enterprise-level performance at a fraction of the cost.
You mentioned in your notes that this kind of performance could be a game changer for certain industries.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Think about fields like graphics design, video editing, architecture, medical imaging. Any industry that deals with huge files and needs fast storage access would benefit from this.
And even for demanding remote work setups, right?
Exactly. If you're working with large data sets or collaborating on complex projects, having this kind of storage speed can make a world of difference.
Speaking of cost, let's put things in perspective. How does the price of the MikroTik ROSE compare to a traditional enterprise-grade NVMe storage array?
Well, a comparable enterprise array, just the hardware itself, could easily cost you $15,000 to $20,000. And that's before you even factor in the drives.
Ouch. That's a serious investment.
Yeah, it's out of reach for a lot of people.
Uh,
But the MikroTik ROSE, you can get the unit itself for around $2,000 to $3,000.
that's order of magnitude cheaper.
It is. And you're not locked into buying expensive proprietary drives either. You can use any compatible NVMe drive you want.
So you have more control over your budget and your storage choices. Now, you also explored some colocation and hosting options for the ROSE.
Yeah, I looked into a company called NetWire. They offer colocation services specifically for MikroTik devices, including the ROSE.
And their pricing was quite competitive, right?
Yeah, you can get a rack space, power, internet connectivity, the whole shebang for under $100 per month.
That's incredible. It makes this kind of high-performance storage accessible to a much wider audience.
Yeah.
Now, let's talk security. That's always a top concern, especially when you're dealing with sensitive data.
For sure. And the MikroTik ROSE has you covered. It supports native drive encryption through the UterOS storage package.
So even if someone physically steals the drives, the data is still protected.
Exactly. And you can also set up secure remote access using VPNs. RouterOS supports all the popular protocols: WireGuard, IPsec, SSTP, L2TP.
So you can manage the ROSE and access your data securely from anywhere.
Exactly.
All right, so to wrap things up, the MikroTik ROSE is clearly a powerful and surprisingly affordable storage solution, but it's not without its quirks.
That's for sure. The initial setup can be a bit challenging, especially with those Winbox issues and the naming inconsistencies.
The command line is your friend when it comes to configuring the ROS.
It is. But once you get past that initial learning curve, the performance is really impressive,
Yeah.
especially for the price.
You really highlighted the potential of the ROS for everything from backups to high-performance computing. And the flexibility of choosing your own drives and the built-in encryption are huge pluses.
Yeah, overall, I'm really happy with it. It's a great value for the money.
So for all our listeners out there, what storage challenges are you facing? Could something like the MikroTik ROSE be a solution for you? What questions does this deep dive raise for you about network storage and virtualization? We'd love to hear your thoughts.
Absolutely. It's a fascinating area of technology that's constantly evolving, and I think we've only scratched the surface today.
That's the beauty of the deep dive. Always more to explore.
Exactly.
All right, that's all the time we have for today. Thanks for joining us, and a special thanks to you for sharing your MikroTik ROSE adventure with us.
My pleasure. It's been fun.
Until next time, keep diving deep.